Part 72. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 715. U-81, why are you here? What's the current situation of Iron Blood? Is the Siren Tide under control? The iron-blooded Bismarck saw several familiar figures, so he quickly stopped and asked. Ah, it's Sister Bismarck. U-81 and others ran over immediately after hearing the voice. Yes, Bismarck nodded, staring at a few people, wanting to know the current situation of Iron Blood. The Siren Tide has receded now, and the situation in the Iron Blood offshore has begun to stabilize. When we left, the remaining Siren fleet there was already under the control of the large fleet commanders. U-81 explained. That's really great. Bismarck let out a sigh of relief. Where's Tirpitz? Tirpitz is currently presiding over the repair of the defense line near Iron Blood. She is worried that this is a trick of the Sirens, so the construction of the defense line has not been relaxed at all times. U-81 replied. Prince Eugen on the side smiled and said, she is indeed Tirpitz, but you have already seen the current situation. Her worries are somewhat unnecessary, but the iron-blooded necessary defense line still needs to be built. After returning, you will tell her the situation. At present, the facilities near the Iron Blood coast have been mainly restored, and the front line has been temporarily abandoned. After all these battles are completely over, we will discuss the future development of the Iron Blood. I understand. U-81 nodded quickly. Prince Eugen is a very important person in Iron Blood, and her words are usually implemented. At this time, Bismarck on the side also nodded and agreed with Prince Eugen's suggestion. The world we are facing is somewhat unpredictable now, so Iron Blood is currently acting on Prince Eugen's instructions and rebuilding our offshore defenses first. Wait until the battle is over, and then consider it comprehensively. You go back and tell Tirpitz that everything is going very well here. Maybe there will be a fierce battle later. The outcome of this battle will affect the direction of the world. But no matter what, take good care of Jagged. Understood. U-81 nodded. While everyone was talking, a figure stepped into the iron-blooded cabin. Including Bismarck, everyone looked at that figure and couldn't help but become solemn. Frederick the Great, Bismarck said softly. Haha, I saw a few little guys from the iron-blooded camp of this world coming over, so I came over to take a look. Frederick the Great said with a smile. So what's the current situation in Iron-Blooded? According to our progress, the Siren Tide on Iron-Blooded side should have been lifted by now, right? Yes, the Siren Tide on the coast near Iron Blood has also been lifted, which proves that our current strategy is feasible. As long as we continue to advance, the Siren Tide on the North Atlantic coast will also be lifted this time. Bismarck nodded. This is inevitable. After all, this is how Dong Huang and Chongying ended the Siren Tide. Frederick the Great said with a smile. Then this time Frederick the Great came here not only to care about the situation around Iron Blood, but also to talk about anything else. I believe that your observation of us for so many days has finally yielded a result, right, Eugen? The prince smiled. Haha, you are indeed Prince Eugen, so I will tell you the truth, Frederick the Great said with a smile. The conversation in the iron-blooded command ship lasted for a long time. When everyone was about to finish supplies, Frederick the Great left the iron-blooded command ship with a smile. It seemed that she was very satisfied with the previous conversation. At this time, inside the Iron Blood command ship, Bismarck frowned, looked at the thoughtful Prince Eugen and said, do you think Frederick the Great's words are credible? Although it remains to be investigated, based on the current situation, it is indeed a way out for us in the future, Prince Eugen said. Bismarck withdrew his gaze, thought for a moment and said to U-81, you also heard what Frederick the Great said just now. Tell Tirpitz without missing a word of this conversation, and confirm this conversation as our iron-blooded confidential, don't let anyone know except you. Understood, U-81 said. Sister, but doesn't this conflict with the policy we implemented before in Iron Blood, said U-556 on the side. Bismarck shook his head. Now and then, although we have not experienced the final decisive battle yet, this time we iron-blooded have indeed become bystanders, so the previous decisions are not necessarily the best for us. The world is changing very fast right now, and we don't know when new enemies will appear. We must be at the forefront of all camps to maintain our iron-blooded advantage. What Frederick the Great said just now is right. We Iron-Blood should indeed make some changes, especially after fighting them for such a long time. Clear. On the other side, the figure of Frederick the Great returned to the iron-blooded command ship where Qin Ji's shipgirl was. Agreed, Prince Eugen bit his finger and smiled. Although the answer given is to consider, do they have a reason to refuse, Frederick the Great said with a smile. In fact, this is a win-win situation for them and our fleet. This battle not only determines the fate of the world, but also determines our identity as leaders in the future. Although it is impossible for every camp to be submissive, it is best to cut off some extraneous things. Bismarck said. I don't hope that they will fully support our fleet's future decisions, but if they can stand on our side when executing that plan, even if they don't lend a helping hand and just watch, it would be best, Emperor Lai said. But your plan is indeed a bit crazy, and are you sure you won't tell the commander about this plan? Although she will hesitate, I think it is very likely that he will support you based on his character. Prince Eugen smiled. My child. Frederick the Great smiled, there is no need to trouble my child with such things. At present, this plan needs to be kept secret for a while. My child is the focus of the world, and there are many people around him. There are many unsettling factors. So when this plan is implemented, I believe that with my child's courage, he will definitely support us. You are right. There are indeed many unstable factors around the commander, Bismarck said solemnly. In this case, let us carry out the full power with iron blood. Even if there is a conflict with the commander later, that's also our responsibility. I believe that that time will be both the end and the beginning. Everything is from our perspective of exploring the truth. We will know what the truth of this world is like at that time. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 716. Since the supplies had been delivered, under the operation of Tai Shui and others, the ship transporting supplies also left the battle sea area and returned to Tai Shui, and everyone also started a new round of advancement. Especially when the news that the Siren Tide receded near the sea near Iron Blood spread throughout the entire fleet, it also gave a certain degree of confidence to the ship girls of the Royal Sardinian Empire, Free Iris, and other camps. Now that Iron Blood has returned to stability, their camp believes that it will be able to return to calm in the near future. And such a result is the purpose of their attack this time. Now that the purpose is about to be achieved, they are naturally becoming more and more energetic. As the progress progressed, everyone became more and more worried. After all, the existence of the Arbiter hangs above everyone's heads like the sword of Damocles, and no one knows when such an existence will appear in front of them. Even though the information Qin Ji gave them before indicated that there was an Ember ship girl lurking in the dark, they still felt a little worried about handing their lives over to others. However, the subsequent progress was extremely smooth, so smooth that Qin Ji felt a little weird. They encountered no decent resistance at all in the outer sea area strongholds, and basically every battle was passed by crushing them. The number of characters appearing as agents became less and less, until later, even the executors were no longer visible, only the ordinary mass-produced Siren fleet. But this situation did not make Qin Ji feel happy. On the contrary, it made him feel deeply worried. He was certain that the Arbiter had discovered them, but he didn't know the specific reason why he hadn't appeared in front of them for so long, but there must be a huge conspiracy. And the Ember has not appeared yet, which makes Qin Ji feel strange. Helena and the others should not lie to him. If they wanted to lie to him, they would not have to wait until now. They would be completely defeated by the Arbiter when they were first near the waters of Guam. So what is all this for? Or maybe this kind of battle is another experiment of the siren from beginning to end. Qin Ji can't explain clearly at the moment, but now that it has reached such a point, there is only one way to the end. Qin Ji's command ship was crowded with people at the moment. Not only his shipmates, but also leaders from other camps were gathered here. At this time, all the ship girls' eyes were focused on Qin Ji, who was standing in the center. He was the commander-in-chief of this operation, and the next plan would be the key battle in this battle. Qin Ji looked around and then cleared his throat. Everyone, after such a long period of fighting, we have cleared this Siren Sea area and most of the Siren strongholds. I believe that the situation in your camp has also eased, and our group has achieved our original goal. However, this is far from the end. Deep in this sea, there are enemies called arbiters waiting for us. Fighting them is a must option for us. Success means that our action has achieved final victory, and the world will gain temporary peace. But if it fails, I don't think I need to say more, you will understand what this will mean. Therefore, the final battle is inevitable. If you are ready to give up, you can bring it up now. After all, after entering the battlefield, there is no such thing as quitting. Commander Qin Ji, we have fought this far, how can we withdraw? Anyway, no matter what other camps think, we at White Eagle will never retreat, whether it is for the future stability of White Eagle or for the sake of the world. We must participate in this battle and we must win, Beiying's company said with a smile. Yes, Commander Qin Ji, just give the order, King George V said with a smile, and several other camp leaders nodded without any intention of backing down. Seeing everyone's reaction, Qin Ji smiled and said, in that case, let's. When Qin Ji's words rang out, a voice suddenly appeared at the stern of the command ship not far away. Haha, did Commander Qin Ji forget something? How can the final decisive meeting be complete without us? When these charming words rang out, everyone instantly looked towards the stern of the ship. At this time, at the stern of the ship, a group of ship girls with different looks were standing there, looking at everyone with different expressions. You are. Before Qin Ji could say anything, Beiying's company and several other camp leaders took a defensive stance. At this time, Qin Ji quickly waved his hand and said, don't panic, they are the embers I told you before. Embers. The leaders of Beiying's company and several other camps looked at Helena and the others in surprise, with various lights shining in their eyes. Qin Ji walked straight towards Helena without carefully observing the surprised camp leaders. Long time no see. Qin Ji extended his palm to Helena and looked at the other embers he had never met before. So are they the reinforcements you found in the sea area? Helena smiled and held Qin Ji's hand. Of course, they are all ships scattered in this world, and they are also our help in this battle. Do you want me to help introduce it to you? Qin Ji nodded, although I can guess a thing or two after seeing their appearance, but if you can help me introduce them, that would be very grateful. Helena smiled and began to introduce, you already know Filong and Nizana, so let me start with this one. This one is Soryu, this one is Scharnhorst, this one is Royal Ark, this one is Fuzu, standing next to her is Mountain City, and the one on the far side is Memphis. Looking at the Ember warriors who were very different from his own ship girl, Qin Ji nodded to everyone, my name is Qin Ji. I'm glad to meet you. I'm also very happy to get your help this time and give us a chance save our world. Although we may not be able to play a big role in the coming battle due to our lack of strength, we will still fight side by side with you. Haha, I'm looking forward to it very much, Commander Qin Ji. Shan Cheng flashed his red eyes and looked at Qin Ji with a smile. Mountain City. Fuzang, who was standing next to Shan Cheng, said softly. He saw Shan Cheng turning his head with an unconvinced expression, and then looked at Qin Ji. Commander Qin Ji, Helena said that you are the commander-in-chief of this battle, so he is also the one who guides us this time. We will do our best to prevent the tragedy that happened to us from happening again in this world. This is our expectation and this is why we are here. Qin-Ji nodded, I understand. Then, as the commander-in-chief of this battle, I will invite you to participate in our final battle meeting. My pleasure. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 717. Why doesn't it matter that the final plan is so simple? Zhang Xian looked at the advancing fleet and said to King George V next to him. King George V smiled, actually, I think there is no problem. After all, the focus of the battle this time is not on us, but on them. As King George V spoke, her eyes turned to the ship girls gliding at the front of the fleet, and those people were the Ember ship girls who had appeared on Qin-Ji's command ship before. You're right, their strength is really unpredictable, and their aura cannot be matched even by the two of us. Zhang Wen looked at the people in front and said solemnly. But I do believe what Commander Qin-Ji said. Maybe we can win this battle, King George V said. It's not maybe, but we must win. Even if our bodies are shattered to pieces, even if our bodies sink into the sea, we must stop the Sirens' conspiracy, Zhang Wen said firmly. Haha, you are indeed war-weary, King George V laughed. Such conversations occurred not only among the royal family, but also among several other camps. Although he was confused about Qin-Ji making such a simple and direct decision to attack, when he saw the figures moving forward, he unconsciously calmed down. Perhaps the simplest and most direct method at this moment is also the best solution. But those people are completely different. Although they are also named Scharnhorst, that Scharnhorst gives me a much stronger feeling than you, and that Nizhana iron-blooded Prince Eugen looked at the leading figure in the distance and said to Scharnhorst beside him. Scharnhorst nodded, yes, even a normal gesture makes people feel a burst of pressure. I have never seen anything like this before. These ship girls called Embers are indeed far more powerful than us, and I understand why Commander Qin-Ji keeps emphasizing them. But why are they so powerful? Frederick the Great came here before and said that those Embers mind cubes are different from ours. They can explore the deeper power of the Walker cube and use more powerful power to fight. However, everything has two sides. If you want to get more powerful power, you must give something. They are all ships from different worlds, and it is said that their worlds have been destroyed. Bismarck said. Tisk. Scharnhorst couldn't help but gasped. Okay, now is not the time to discuss this. The cooperation between us and Commander Qin-Ji will be closer in the future, and we will slowly explore the secrets of these Embers. In addition, have you ever felt that your body has become heavier? Prince Eugen, who was standing aside, said with narrowed eyes. Getting heavier. Scharnhorst was stunned for a moment, then raised his hand. The gravity of the sea area has changed. Yes, Bismarck nodded. Do you still remember the Arbiter Strenkus that Commander Qin-Ji mentioned before? I remember that her ability is to change the gravity of an area of the sea. Yes, it seems that the war is about to begin. Prince Eugen smiled. This way we can see the strength of these Ember fleets up close, and we can also see what Commander Qin-Ji said can be destroyed. How powerful is the Arbiter of the world? In the field of gravity, it seems that Stellankus has indeed come here to join us. Memphis felt the changing gravity around him and said to everyone, be careful. This time we are facing 3 arbiters. It doesn't matter. It's not like we haven't fought against the 3 arbiters before. Now that we have the advantage in numbers, we will definitely win this battle, Royal Ark said coolly. Don't take it lightly. Although our purpose this time is to show our strength, you also know the power of the cooperation of the 3 arbiters. So everyone, use all your strength and give it a try. Whether it is for the Watcher project or for the battles we have experienced before, there should be an end this time. Scharnhorst said solemnly. Everyone nodded in unison, and the flying dragon on the side turned to look at Helena. I'll leave the optical invisibility of Tempolins to you. We need to determine their location and then crush them. I know, my radar has been activated, and we will encounter a battle soon, but not now, Helena said with a smile. Clear. After continuing to move forward for about dozens of kilometers, Helena's voice suddenly appeared in the communicator on the command ship where Qin-Ji was located. Commander Qin-Ji, please stop here. Our battle will begin next. If you get too close, unnecessary damage will be caused. Qin-Ji, who had been waiting for the communication, immediately responded, I understand, I will tell the other camps to stop. And if our power is needed later, we can speak out at any time, although it will not play a decisive role. Haha, don't worry, we have experienced this kind of battle many times. After Helena finished speaking, she hung up the communicator, and Qin-Ji immediately notified the other command ships of this information. In the sea area, the speed of the fleet slowly stopped, leaving only Yi Yan and others at the front heading towards the deeper sea area. After traveling a short distance, under Helena's guidance, other ships began to attack the coordinate point she mentioned. Then slowly, 3 figures appeared on the empty sea surface, and these 3 people were the 3 arbiters Qin-Ji had seen before. Several people looked at each other, without any verbal communication, they just took out their weapons one after another, and then fought together. Along with the dancing butterflies and the sword energy, the leaders of each camp saw the true power of the Ember for the first time. They also saw the power of the Arbiter. Looking at the fierce battle not far away, their hearts boiled with excitement, but they were powerless at the moment and could only remain silent bystanders. At this moment, the power displayed by Ember and the Arbiter made them truly realize what Qin-Ji said before. A ship girl with such power can indeed destroy a world. As the battle continued, the situation on the scene gradually became clearer. Although the Arbiter has great strength, and the cooperation between the 3 people is extremely tacit. But Feelong's side gradually took the initiative on the battlefield with its numerical advantage and cooperation. Seeing this scene, Qin-Ji and the leaders of other camps also let go of their worries at this moment. And I couldn't help but feel happy, and at the same time I was thinking about the future of this world. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 718. In the sea area, black and red swords were crisscrossed, and crimson chains were constantly shuttled with black lightning. In such a fierce battle, blue butterflies were flying, making the scene extremely beautiful. It seems that this is not a life and death battle, but a hallucinogenic dream. Not far away, on Qin-Ji's command ship, all the camp leaders and several Sea Legend level ship ladies were standing next to Qin-Ji, watching the battle in front of him intently. Although I have seen the flying dragon sword energy before, it still feels magical when I see it now. Qin-Ji put down the telescope in his hand and said, well, actually that kind of sword energy is not special. In the Chongsakura camp or the royal camp, after the ship girls who use swords reach a certain level, they can attach sword energy to their weapons. But there are very few swordsmen like Feelong who can leave the body and have super attack power. As far as I know, I have only seen it on Atago, but its power and distance are far smaller than that of a flying dragon. Tiancheng said to Qin-Ji. Qin-Ji nodded, well, apart from the flying dragon sword energy, that blue butterfly gives me a very familiar feeling. When he said this, he turned to look at Shinano. That dignified figure and graceful posture reminded him of a dream he had not mentioned for a long time. There was also a Shinano in that dream, and there was also such a blue butterfly shadow. As if feeling Qin-Ji's gaze, Shinano looked forward and looked at Qin-Ji. Commander, summoning UD is actually not my exclusive skill. As long as your heart is dedicated to the gods, you can master such changes in divine power. Your heart is dedicated to the gods. Shinji looked at Nagato aside in confusion. Then Nagato doesn't know how to do it, doesn't he? I. Seeing that the topic was brought to him, Nagato pursed his lips, and said with a firm and stubborn expression on his face, although I am a shrine maiden, I am the son of Chongsakura. Chongsakura is in me. His heart is naturally more important than the gods. Although it is blasphemous to say this, this is my duty and my destiny. Shinji couldn't help but smile when he heard what Nagato said, and touched Nagato's hair with his hand. Now in my fleet, there is no need to impose that fate on ourselves, because we don't distinguish between each other. You. Nagato looked up at the smiling Shinji, feeling the warmth of the big hand, and his cheeks couldn't help but blush. Although I feel a kind of warmth of being cared for in my heart, I want to continue this feeling. But Shinji's actions made her embarrassed among many flagships, because she saw that the company and Bismarck were all looking at her with smiles. You are so rude. You touched my head without my permission. Why don't you put your hand down quickly? Looking at the blushing Nagato, Shinji couldn't help but take back his hand and touch his nose. Well, let's talk about it when we are alone together in the future. What do you mean? Nagato said softly. Shinji smiled and immediately changed the subject, turning to look at Bismarck. Bismarck, what do you think the black chains held by Nizana and Scharnhorst are? Bismarck saw Shinji asking him, and answered, it is one of the manifestations of the power of the Rubik's Cube, and it is also a type of our ship's equipment. But I didn't expect that they would actually think of using the anchor chain that binds the anchor as a weapon. It seems to be working pretty well. Shinji suddenly understood after hearing Bismarck's explanation. Whether it is a warship or a civilian ship, anchor chains and anchors are essential. As steel behemoths in the sea, the anchor chains of battleships are naturally of very good quality, so it is feasible to use them as ship equipment. And there is something the commander has not noticed. Bismarck looked at the battlefield in front of him and said with a frown, the cooperation between them is very tacit. It is far less like a temporary team, but more like they have been working side by side for a long time. Just like comrades in battle. Really? Shinji took a telescope and looked at the battlefield in front of him. Although the people in front of him were not fighting in a small team like he taught his ship girl, he could still see the tacit understanding between offense and defense. Understandable. While Shinji was observing carefully, George V on the side nodded. When Bismarck said this, I discovered it. There is indeed a tacit understanding between them. It seems that everyone knows everyone. But according to the information Helena said before, they are from different worlds. Why is there such a tacit understanding? Shinji put down the telescope in his hand, touched his chin and said, do you think it is possible that although they came from different worlds, after the world was destroyed, they also traveled to other places? The world and then the embers are composed like this bit by bit. But Ember obviously has his own purpose, so even after forming, he still has to go to other worlds to carry out actions, so he usually disperses, but will he get together when fighting? I think the speculation mentioned by the Lord is somewhat possible, but logically speaking, doesn't it mean that if we gather together, we will have more powerful power, and we will not be afraid of the Arbiter's attack? Tiancheng said with a smile. Enterprise shook his head at this time. Helena said that the responsibility of the Arbiter is to prevent them from destroying experimental sites in other worlds. If they are gathered together, the action will be slower, so if they are dispersed, the action will be more efficient faster. And traveling across the world is definitely not that simple. It will definitely require some costs or a relatively complicated process, and the safety may also be. I also agree with the company's view at this time, Richelieu said. According to the information we have so far, Ember rarely communicates with others except fighting. These people from Helena, Filong, and others, the relationship can be seen. Shinji nodded. Well, these are things we need to understand later. Now let's take a look at the battle in front of us. This is closely related to our future destiny. The command ship did not become quiet because of this, but many ship girls focused their attention on Ember's fighting style. Ember is a gathering place for the strong, and their fighting style is worth learning. Whether it is the application of the mental Rubik's Cube or the application of ship equipment, many ship girls are eye-opening. This battle lasted for a long time, because the Arbiters, who were the opponents of the Embers, were not so easy to deal with. The gravity field and magnetic field interference have brought a lot of troubles to the people in Ember, but the situation has been developing for the better. When Feelong and Ark Royal used carrier-based aircraft to suppress Tempolens's carrier-based aircraft, with the assistance of Helena and Memphis, Scharnhorst, Nizanov, Fuzu, Yamashiro, and others finally made accurate hits. The Arbiters. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Hwangming Muji. Chapter 719. Looking at the battlefield in front of them from a distance, the eyes of the senior leaders of the major camps were filled with shock. The Royal King George V said slowly through the communicator, "It is indeed a war that we cannot get close to. In terms of firepower alone, although we have a large number of people, one mountain city in Ember is already equivalent to one of our current combined fleets. Do you have the firepower? Although I really want to say it's not the case, it is indeed the case. This kind of power is really foul." Ziwahi, who was a heavy Sakura, exclaimed. "Huh," the iron-blooded Bismarck's voice appeared. "Didn't Yu Chong Sakura participate in the initial battle with the Arbiter?" "No, at that time Commander Qin Ji's fleet was divided into two groups to assist Dong Huang and Chongying at the same time. It was Commander Qin Ji's fleet that had an encounter with the Arbiter, not to assist us," Ruhi explained. Really, after learning this information, Bismarck stopped talking and just looked at the battlefield in front of him quietly. At this time, Beiying's company said, "The situation on the battlefield has become more obvious now. Although the Arbiter is still resisting, the situation is slowly turning towards Ember, not us. This battle has finally come to an end." "But is this really the end?" the Soviet Union said, looking at the battlefield in the distance. "After this incident, the structure of this world will become confusing again. Although Commander Qin Ji talked about the issue of Embers, they will still be a factor of instability after the Arbiter retreats. So, the Northern Alliance is preparing to intervene in Ember's future," Free Iris Richelieu said lightly. "I'm just worried, and if we intervene, we are not qualified yet." Although the Soviet Union did not answer in the affirmative, it did not deny it either. "Although I don't want to admit it, as Yuxian and Akagakaga expected, Commander Qin Ji has become someone we cannot ignore." Veneto of the Sardinian Empire paused when he said this. "It is a force that must be treated seriously. With his fleet and ambiguous relationship with Ember, he will definitely be the leader of this world in the future." "You don't have to worry," Dong Huang's Anshin said. "Oh, did Dong Huang discover anything else?" the Soviet Union asked, and the others also concentrated their attention. Anshin's voice came from the communicator. "For Commander Qin Ji, there is no barrier between camps in his heart. You can also see the performance of the Siren Tide this time, and I believe you also know it. Moreover, he did not become timid just because his opponent was strong, and chose to preserve his strength and stay safe. In battle, his fleet always charges forward. Although having more people is one thing, he can also choose to consume you. And Sister Yuxian said that if we want to truly unite, this choice is the best." It seems that Dong Huang has a high opinion of Commander Qin Ji. Enterprise smiled. "Aren't you being tall enough?" Xianghe beside Ruhi curled his lips but did not say anything. "You should turn your attention to the battlefield in front of you." "It is not appropriate to talk about this now," King George V said. "Furthermore, we have all been in contact with Commander Qin Ji. I believe you all know what kind of person he is. If he hadn't acted righteously this time, our other camps would have been destroyed. We will leave the future issues for later. As long as Commander Qin does not violate the principles of Azalane and the moral principles in his heart, then we are happy to see his strength. After King George V said these words, there was no more sound from the communicator, and there was a long period of silence. The top leaders of the major camps turned their attention to the battlefield in the distance, but in their hearts they considered what King George V had just said. On the battlefield not far away, Arbiter Hermit looked at the offensive of several embers in front of her. Although her side was suppressed, there was no trace of nervousness on her face. The mechanism System 9=14 joint interference mechanism is activated. Following Hermit's movements, a strong electromagnetic pulse came out, and Memphis and Shancheng were the first to bear the brunt. The weapons system has been interfered with. Emergency repairs are now starting. I'm going to leave it to you. Memphis quickly withdrew from direct contact and retreated toward the rear of the embers. Clear. With a cold reply, the Black Chain quickly approached, chasing Strinkus in Memphis and the mountain city. Immediately after the Black Chain, Scharnhorst's figure appeared in front of the two of them. She looked at Strinkus, who stopped and said, "Now, your opponent is me." "Humph, you guys are really difficult to deal with." Although he said this, the movements of Strinkus' hands did not stop at all. Blue barrages emerged from the ship suit on her body and rushed towards Scharnhorst. Facing the barrage that filled the sky, Scharnhorst did not wave his long knife and kill it with his sword energy like the flying dragon did before. Instead, he tightened the iron chain in his hand and threw it out. The black iron chain, accompanied by black and red lightning, swept away the barrage in the sky in an instant. "This trick is of no use to me," Scharnhorst said as he turned the turret mounted on his ship, aimed the cannonballs at Strenkus in front of him, and fired fiercely. The cannonballs exploded violently in front of Stelenkus. Although it was blessed with a gravity shield, Ember's cannonballs were not as easy to avoid as Qin-Ge's cannonballs. After the smoke filled the air, the Stelenkus ship that appeared in front of everyone had begun to be damaged. The strike is effective, but meaningless. The injured Strenkus did not care about his injuries at all, but said calmly to Scharnhorst in front of him, "Repair module, start." Following Strenkus's voice, the damage to her ship's armor was being repaired at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a short time, the ship's outfit had been repaired, and there was no trace of how many shells she had received before. Scharnhorst didn't seem surprised by this result, and still shook the chain in his hand to attack. There is a limit to the number of times you can activate the maintenance module. If you don't get timely supplies, how many times can you repair it? I wonder if there are more of them than mine. Facing Scharnhorst's question, Strenkus did not answer, but accelerated the pace of the attack. Similarly, Hermit and Tempolans on the other side also accelerated the pace of their attack. As time slowly passed, the battlefield was gradually compressed smaller and smaller. Although the connection mechanism of several arbiters was always activated, people who became familiar with it would naturally have ways to break their connection mechanism. "Can't you hold on?" Fi Long keenly noticed the situation of several arbiters, so he raised his lips and smiled. "Then it's time to give you the finishing blow. Everyone, activate semi-overload and give the people in front of you a ride." Clear. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 720. The breeze is blowing, but the royal weather in this season is still a bit cold, especially on the banks of the Thames River in the foggy city. Qin-Ge tightened his collar to block the cold wind, and then stretched out his hand to hold the beauty next to him. "We should be arriving at Tower Bridge soon, right?" Belfast smiled and nodded to Qin-Ge. "Yes, master. Although this is my first time coming to the royal family, I have always grown up here in my memory, so I am still relatively familiar with everything here. But why did the master insist on bringing me here?" Is there anything special here? Qin Ji smiled and nodded, of course, I'll tell you later when we get to Tower Bridge. Seeing Qin Ji pretending to be mysterious, Belfast smiled slightly but did not try to expose him. In fact, Belfast remembers everything Qin Ji ever said, so she knows why Brother Qin brought her to Tower Bridge this time. Compared to saying it herself, saying it from Qin Ji's mouth would be more surprising, even though she already knew it. Following the previous semi-overloaded attack by the Embers in the Atlantic Ocean, a huge explosion sounded, and a dazzling white light enveloped the entire sea area. After the white light passed, the three arbitrators disappeared above the sea. Qin Ji and others did not know whether they were destroyed by the attack or temporarily retreated, but this result showed that they had temporarily won the battle. Since October, we have been fighting continuously on the sea, and now it is the end of December. 2 months of continuous fighting has left everyone physically and mentally exhausted, but with such a victorious result, it is the best. Originally, Qin Ji planned to take his ship girl home directly from the Atlantic Ocean, but invitations from various camps made him unable to refuse. Thinking that there would be many areas where cooperation would be needed in the future, Qin Ji agreed. However, the Ember people did not seem to want to communicate with the various camps in this world, so Qin Ji arranged for part of his fleet to go back to his port area with the Donghuang and Chongying camps, while he took the others and followed King George V to the nearest royal palace. This is also the reason why he is now walking on the streets of the foggy city with Belfast. In fact, the master can take this time to accompany the other ladies. After all, it is their first time to come to the royal family. If the master is with you at this time, I think it will be a very wonderful trip, Belfast walked. Said to Qin Ji. Qin Ji smiled and nodded, I also have this plan, but because we are going to attend the royal celebration dinner tonight, and we didn't bring our dresses, we let them move around freely and prepare their own dresses. I'll just take some time out from my busy schedule and take you out for a walk. I'm afraid I won't have time to be alone with you again. After hearing what Qin Ji said, Belfast stopped trying to persuade him. Although she is Qin Ji's head maid, she definitely doesn't want to be just a maid in her heart. She also cherishes the opportunity to be alone with Qin Ji. So he got closer to Qin Ji's shoulder, with a bright smile on his face, and walked with him towards the Tower Bridge not far away. When he came to the edge of Tower Bridge, Qin Ji did not take Belfast to the Tower Bridge, but came to the Thames River some distance away from the Tower Bridge, pointed to the flowing river, and gently said to Belfast, he said, I have seen this place many times in videos and photos in Minecraft. The surrounding scenery is exactly the same, but there is still one thing missing in this place. Belfast smiled softly, what the commander is talking about should be my prototype ship, right? Qin Ji nodded. He was not surprised at all that Belfast knew this. After all, he could become the head maid of all the royal maids. How could he hold such a position without very sensitive observation and delicate thoughts? Smiling and hugging the beauty beside him into his arms, Qin Ji looked at the flowing Thames River and said with a smile, I have always wanted to see the glory of the royal fleet in the past, but this wish has never been realized in the world where I live. On the contrary, today I have realized the dream I have always had in this world. What's more interesting is that the cruiser that I want to watch, which represents the style of the Royal Navy in the past, is not in the Thames River, but is beside me. And you have also become the master's head maid, and for the foreseeable future, I will always be by your side and never leave. Belfast smiled. Qin Ji smiled and nodded, stretched out his palm, and gently stroked Belfast's silver white hair. Then the palm of his hand stayed on Belfast's white neck, grabbing a chain like a necklace. Rather than this chain, I want to lock you to me in other ways. After Qin Ji said this, he let go of the chain around Belfast's neck, reached into his pocket, and took out an exquisite box. When Belfast saw the box, his gentle eyes revealed some excitement for a moment. As Qin Ji's personal maid, She is naturally familiar with everything about Qin, including the box in front of her. In her memory, there were 2 boxes in the port area. One was given to Guanghui by Qin, and the other was kept by Qin in his office. But in this sweet time today, Qin took it in his hand and placed it in front of his eyes. Why didn't Belfast feel touched? Just as Belfast's thoughts were racing, Qin opened the box with a smile, revealing the shining ring inside. Originally I wanted to give it to you when I returned to the port area, but this time I came to the foggy city and came to the Thames River. Then I felt that if I didn't give it to you here, then I would miss the best time. Although this ring is the Azalain vow ring and not a Claddagh ring in the Irish sense, I still hope that it can bring you happiness and lock you with me forever. When he said this, Qin smiled and knelt down on one knee, facing the breeze of the foggy city, on the bank of the Thames River, and said something serious to Belfast. I want you to stay by my side in another capacity, not just as my head maid, but also as my wedding ship and my wife. So, will you marry me, Belfast? Looking at Qin in front of him and his sincere words, Belfast, who was usually perfect and unrestrained, seemed a little embarrassed. This is troublesome. Obviously I just keep looking at you and occasionally appreciate your embarrassed look. But getting such an important oath makes me want to do more for you. From you is there more to gain there? Qin did not speak, but held up the ring and looked at Belfast with a smile. What a willful and lovely master! Belfast took a deep breath and gave Qin a perfect maid ceremony. Are you the one I am destined for? Gian, Belfast, from this moment on, I will always be by your side. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 721. When Qin and Belfast returned to the room, they found that several people were already standing in their room. Hey, why are you here? Qin looked at the Guanghui people in front of him in surprise and said. Guanghui chuckled and said, about the dress for tonight's banquet, I originally wanted to discuss it with the commander, but found that the commander was not in the room, so I will wait here for a moment. Qin said and smiled, because I have never been to the royal palace, I asked Belfast to take me out for a tour, keeping you waiting for a long time. It's nothing. My dear, if you want to visit the royal family, I am willing to accompany you. Shurjun ran over and hugged Qin arm. Just when Qin was about to say something, Prince Eugene looked at Belfast and smiled and said, I'm afraid it's not just as simple as going out for a stroll, right? After all, Belfast didn't wear that ring on his left hand before he went out. Oh. Qin touched his nose, Bifa is also my wedding ship now. After all, she has helped me a lot from the beginning until now. She basically helps me with my basic necessities, food, clothing, housing, and transportation. And after going through such a battle, and coming to the royal family, a place she is familiar with, I feel that this ring should indeed have a home. After finishing speaking, Qin said to the surprised Guanghui, sorry, Guanghui, I didn't tell you about this in advance. Hearing what Qin said, Guanghui quickly shook his head, the shocked expression on his face turned into a smile, glanced at Belfast, and finally looked at Qin tenderly. Commander, I'm not angry, I'm just a little surprised by Commander's choice. Guanghui smiled, I thought it would take a long time for your second ring to be given out, but in the end, none of us got it. When I thought of it, I announced it. Prince Eugene on the side also smiled and touched his chin, I didn't expect that the commander would be so sudden and so romantic. But why wasn't that ring for me? Don't you like me? My dear Cheshire said a little disappointed. Qin saw that Guanghui and others were lifeless, so he temporarily ignored the disappointed Cheshire and explained, isn't this the foggy city? In the world before me, Belfast served as a museum. I have always been by the Thames, so I thought it was very meaningful to be here, so I decided to do it. Indeed, it is, but I have to remind the commander that Belfast is not the only ship girl who belongs to the royal family, and the royal family also has Akashi's grocery store. You can prepare a few more rings in case of emergency. Oh, Guanghui said with a smile, his eyes full of teasing. Originally Guanghui thought Qin Ji would look more awkward and awkward after she said these words. But what he didn't expect was that Qin Ji suddenly started thinking seriously. Well, it's exactly what you said. After attending today's banquet, I will go to Akashi's place and prepare some rings. Guanghui said unexpectedly, Commander, do you really think that? In fact, not only Guanghui, but also Prince Yujin looked at Qin Ji in surprise. Qin Ji looked at the two familiar ship girls with surprised expressions, smiled and nodded, and then sat on the sofa nearby. Belfast quickly brought a cup of black tea to Qin Ji. Qin Ji looked at the teacup in front of him and said with a smile, does my decision surprise you so much? Guanghui shook his head, because the commander was, so I was a little surprised. Ha, Guanghui, you also said that was before, so now I have corrected myself, Qin Ji said with a smile. I'm a little curious. Could it be that because of this war, the commander decided to enjoy himself in time? Prince Yujin said jokingly. Ahem, what does carpe diem mean? Qin Ji raised his eyebrows speechlessly and said to Prince Yujin's smile. Actually, I have had this idea before, but because I have always been constrained by my previous world, I can't let it go. This battle just made me more determined about this idea. Oh? Then I want to hear how the commander feels. Prince Yujin took the teacup from Belfast and looked at Qin Ji with a smile, including Guanghui and Cheshire on the side. Curious. From the very beginning when I went on missions with you and fought against the sirens at sea, I always felt unbearable when I saw you girls facing those cannonballs and wars every day. Later, I gradually became familiar with such days and scenes. Although I wouldn't say that I couldn't bear it, I always wanted to do more for you. So I began to learn to change. From the very beginning, I treated you as comrades fighting side by side, or some relationship of mutual use, and it gradually turned into what it is now. But I always feel that I still owe you something. I don't know how to make up for it. I can only try to make you happy every day. After this period of fighting, between facing the destruction of the world and regaining victory, I thought a lot about our future and our world. Suddenly I feel that my previous thoughts were too selfish. I always think about problems in this way, but I have very little response to your emotions. So I decided to make a change, no longer consider those secular constraints, nor care about the opinions of others outside of us. I want to be a commander again from today on, a commander that belongs to you. Why do you suddenly feel grateful to those arbiters? Prince Yujin said with a smile, although it has been so long, it is not too late to understand the meaning of the commander. Maybe I should also dress up tonight, dress up, not just for Jagged, but also for you. After speaking with a smile, Prince Yujin stood up and left Qin Ji's room. She no longer needed to listen to what Qin Ji was saying after that, because he had already heard the answer she wanted to know and understood what he should do next. Watching Prince Yujin leave, Guanghui withdrew his gaze, looked at Qin Ji and smiled, I'm glad that the commander has such an awareness. We have witnessed the growth of the commander with our own eyes, and suddenly feel that we are the happiest in the world. The ship girl. Qin Ji smiled and said, then I will ask for your advice in the future, Guanghui. Of course, Commander, you and I have taken off our promise to be together forever. This is our oath. Guanghui took out her left hand, and on the ring finger of her left hand, the light of the oath ring shined. My dear, when will you give me the ring of oath? Shijun on the side held Qin Ji's arm and shook it. Well, we have only been together for a short time, so maybe I will give you a ring when the time is right. But I like my dear very much. I don't care about anyone except my dear, and it has nothing to do with time. Even if it's been a long, long time, I still like my dear so much. Ahem, you have to let me finish what I owed them before. Well. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 722. Even if part of the fleet goes back to Guam to garrison, the number of people who stay in the royal family is still relatively large, especially when attending the celebration banquet at night. The moment nearly 100 gorgeously dressed ship girls appeared in front of Qin Ji realized the power he now possessed. This time the royal banquet was held by the royal leader Queen Elizabeth, and the banquet was held in the palace where she usually lives. Banquets of this level hosted by the Queen usually entertain leaders of various camps or envoys, and this time they were used to entertain Qin Ji, which was enough to show the royal family's respect for him. They arrived at the banquet venue in a special car specially prepared by the royal family. As soon as they got off the car, Qin Ji saw the maids preparing inside and outside the banquet venue. The slightly familiar figure and the slightly different appearance reminded him of the way he looked when he held a banquet in the port area. But looking around, Qin Ji found that among these maids there were some ship girls that he had never owned, so an idea came to his mind. While he was thinking, people in uniforms gathered around him. Looking at Qin Ji's thinking, Enterprise smiled and asked, "Commander, what's wrong?" Qin Ji came back to his senses, shook his head, and smiled at everyone. "I just felt that the resources were a little tight before, and many times I didn't dare to summon the ship girl boldly. Now after this battle, we have the corresponding confidence. When we return to the port area, it is time to consider strengthening our team again." "Haha, this is a very good idea." The company smiled and nodded. "At present, the strength of our port area is enough to support us to face the waters near Guam, and we no longer have to worry about safety issues. We can indeed put the owned ship girls have been summoned." It's obvious that the commander saw that there were ship girls in the maid team that he didn't have, so he said this. "Ha, man," Prince Eugen teased as he followed Bismarck. Qin Ji couldn't help but cough. "The results are the same anyway, so just ignore the reasons for now." After hearing Qin Ji's explanation, the ship girls surrounding him burst into laughter. At this moment, several bright red figures appeared at the door of the banquet hall. It was the royal King George V who came towards Qin Ji and others with Hao and others. "Guian, Commander Qin Ji, it's a great honor for you to come to the celebration banquet hosted by Her Majesty the Queen." King George V walked up to Qin Ji, stretched out his right hand, and said to Qin Ji with a smile. Without hesitation, Qin Ji immediately responded accordingly. He held the hand extended by King George V and said with a smile, "It is our honor to be able to participate in such a high-level royal celebration banquet, and we are very grateful for your welcome and hospitality. It doesn't matter, this is what our royal family should do, especially for you." This time the royal family was able to turn the corner and reduce unnecessary losses entirely because of Commander Qin Ji's timely support. So this time is not so much a celebration banquet held by the royal family as it is a celebration banquet held specially for you by the royal family. Although King George V's words were polite, there was no hint of politeness in his tone and he was very sincere. To be serious, this time it was also because we all fought against the enemy together and worked together to achieve this result. I just used my own strength. Qin Ji was not proud to take the credit for himself. This answer made King George V think highly of him again. "Sister, it's not good to keep the guests standing outside the banquet hall. The evening is very long. Why don't you go to the banquet hall to meet Her Majesty the Queen first and then you can continue chatting?" Hao on the side smiled and reminded King George V of the mission he was currently performing. "Ha, thank you for the reminder. Commander Qin Ji and everyone else, please come with me into the banquet hall. Her Majesty the Queen has been waiting for you for a long time," King George V said, then turned around and made an invitation gesture, leading Qin Ji and others towards the banquet hall. After entering the banquet hall, Qin Ji was slightly shocked by the spacious venue and the splendid decoration. But soon Qin Ji set his sights on the girl sitting on the throne. She wears a crown on her head, a pure white dress on her body, and holds a scepter in her hand. Although she looks like a girl, she has the aura of a superior. As Qin Ji led by King George V approached, the girl sitting on the throne stood up and took 2 steps forward. "Your Majesty, Commander Qin Ji has arrived," King George V said to the girl. "Thank you." George Elizabeth smiled and nodded to King George V, then turned her attention to Qin Ji, who was standing at the front. Wearing a white navy uniform, like most commanders, his skin was somewhat bronzed due to long periods of sun exposure, and he stood as straight and firm as a bronze sculpture. "In the name of the royal family, I welcome Commander Qin Ji as a guest in the royal family. I hope Commander Qin Ji can have a pleasant trip during his stay in the royal family." Facing Elizabeth's words, Qin Ji smiled and nodded. "I have met Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. I heard how mention you often when I was in Donghuang. Today, it is indeed better to be famous than to meet. Thank you very much for your invitation and blessing." Elizabeth smiled softly, looked at the slightly familiar faces around Qin Ji and said, "Enterprise, Bismarck, Veneto, Richelieu, Nagato, it is indeed the same as what we knew before. It seems that this battle can be won. Not just because of the help of those embers. Commander Qin is able to gather so many camp leaders under his command and bring them together. I am suddenly curious about how great your achievements will be in the future." "I don't know." Qin Ji shook his head and looked at the ship girls around him and said, "But I will take them forward, protect everything with them, and protect the world." "You have indeed fulfilled your belief. This time, in addition to celebrating the victory of the royal family and the world in this siren tide, at the same time, as the leader of the royal family, I also want to take this opportunity to give you something," Elizabeth said. "Something?" Qin Ji was confused. Elizabeth stretched out her hand, and a box engraved with the royal mark appeared in her palm. As she opened the box, the contents were revealed. It was a shining golden badge with a cross underneath the royal emblem. "This is the Royal Navy's highest-ranking cross, and its meaning is that it is awarded in the name of the Royal Navy to the commander who has shown the most bravery and fearlessness in the face of the enemy. Only a handful of commanders have achieved this distinction in the history of the Royal Navy, but I give it to you today because it is the only one worthy of your courage and fearlessness." Listening to Elizabeth's words, Qin Ji's expression couldn't help but become serious. Then he adjusted his clothes. Jiang's already very tall figure stood even more upright again. "Thank you very much. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 723. The investiture ceremony is simple, but the meaning it represents is not simple. As King George V said next to Qin Ji at this moment, originally, the Royal Navy Cross is made of only iron and copper, but because you, Commander Qin Ji, represent a different meaning, Her Majesty the Queen specially asked this medal was made of gold and awarded to you on this occasion. After all, the royal family is now in the reconstruction stage and cannot hold a large-scale ceremony for this award. I also hope that Commander Qin Ji can forgive him." Qin Ji smiled and waved his hand. "It doesn't matter, and I'm not used to that kind of situation, so that's good. I'm very grateful to the royal family for their importance to me and my fleet. I hope our cooperation can be closer in the future. This is necessary. After this battle, it is estimated that all camps want to establish a good relationship with the fleets that invite the commanders," King George V said with meaning. Qin Ji smiled and said, "Isn't this better? And I also want to establish good relations with each camp. After all, when the battle comes again, the strength of one camp is still too weak. Only by uniting can we gain the ultimate victory. Just like this siren tide, it is very difficult for a single camp to compete with them, but as long as we gather together, we can break through their defenses and crush their attack. Well said, this is also what our royal family means. After the Arbiter and Ember appear, the strength of a single camp can no longer resist the Siren's attack. We must seek changes in the breakthrough, King George V said. This is also the meaning of Azalane. I believe that in the days to come, our alliance will become closer and closer, and we will jointly maintain the peace of this world, Qin Ji said with a smile. While the two were talking, Hao on the side smiled and said, Sister and Commander Qin Ji, today is not the time to talk about these things. As a celebration banquet, you are the protagonists, so don't waste all your time here. Everyone is waiting for you. Qin Ji looked back, and sure enough, although his ship girls were scattered in the banquet hall, all eyes were looking here from time to time. That's true, so let's put aside your usual burdens today and enjoy this hard-won banquet. King George V smiled apologetically, picked up the wine glasses placed next to the table, handed one of the glasses to Qin Ji, and then made a toasting motion. Ha ha, cheers. Cheers. After leaving King George V, Qin Ji was immediately surrounded by his shipmates, and their intentions were very obvious. There is a very large dance floor in the center of the banquet hall, and Elizabeth has specially prepared the Royal Symphony Orchestra to play for this banquet, so it is really a pleasure to dance with your loved ones here. Looking at the ship girls gathered around, Qin Ji smiled and said, How about you let me take the initiative today? After all, you took the initiative to invite me to dance at the previous banquet, but now I am in the royal family, so I have to behave like a gentleman. Haha, I suddenly found that the commander has changed a lot, but I am really looking forward to it. I wonder who the commander will invite first, North Carolina said with a smile. The other ship girls also looked at Qin Ji very curiously, and they all wanted to know who Qin Ji wanted to invite first. Qin Ji walked up to the centaur and stretched out his right hand amid the centaur's blushing and expectant look. Beautiful lady, can I invite you to dance with me? Commander, that doesn't matter to me, the centaur said. Qin Ji shook his head. Now is not the time to be humble, and you are the first batch of ship girls I summoned. Your significance to me is incomparable to others. If I put you behind me, you can't pass the test in your own heart. So don't think too much, come on stage and dance together, the dance that belongs to us. After hearing Qin Ji's words, the centaur's initially hesitant expression suddenly became determined. Then he put his hand on Qin Ji's outstretched hand, his face flushed with excitement. Today the centaur was wearing a pure white dress, which seemed to complement the navy dress Qin Ji was wearing. The two held hands and walked to the dance floor in the center of the banquet hall. As soon as they stood up, they heard the band next to them start playing. Qin Ji said with a smile, It seems that the quality of the orchestra here is very high. It is indeed reserved for the royal family. So, let's start our dance, centaur. Yes, Commander, the centaur responded shyly, and the blush on his face was particularly beautiful. Along with the beautiful music, Qin Ji hugged the centaur, and the two danced on the dance floor. However, because there were so many people watching, the centaur always seemed a little unable to let go, and his movements were a little stiff. Although she wanted to complete this dance with Qin Ji in a beautiful way, unfortunately her body did not allow it. Qin Ji also discovered this problem, so he leaned his face against the centaur's ear and whispered, Centaur, let me tell you something quietly. In fact, after I came to this world, the first person I fell in love with was you. I liked the happy and gentle centaur from before. Maybe it's because there are too many people in the port area now, and you often constrain yourself as a junior. But at this moment, I want to tell you that it's you who made me fall in love with this centaur. World, it is you who made me bond with this world. Don't belittle yourself at ordinary times, although your memory is a junior to other experiences, but your time and strength in the fleet are definitely not a junior, but a partner that everyone can trust, and a person that I can trust. So relax, let's dance together. Although this is not our first dance, it is definitely not our last. The time that belongs to us is still very, very long. Qin-Ji's soft words made the centaur's stiff body slowly relax. In a daze, she recalled the time when she dated Qin-Ji. When did she bury her love for Qin-Ji in her heart? Isn't he the one I like the most? Thinking of this, the centaur moved his body slightly closer to Qin-Ji. Commander, I understand, I will work harder in the future. After the centaur finished speaking, her face became more rosy, and this rossiness was not the embarrassment or shyness before, but a kind of happiness, a kind of deep love that can be seen through her face. Accompanied by the beautiful music, the two began to dance heartily. Several ship girls who understood the reason looked at each other and saw a little expectation in each other's eyes. Perhaps, as Qin-Ji said before, he is now beginning to be their commander. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 724. Commander, you can actually take a break. The whole party was dancing, and such money will make us feel bad. When it was Guanghui's turn, she said to Qin-Ji with some distress. Although he understands that Qin-Ji doesn't want to disappoint everyone, this is a bit difficult for him. Qin-Ji smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. It's just a few simple dances that are not difficult for me, and it's much easier for me to do this than you fighting on the battlefield." Seeing that Qin-Ji had made up his mind, Guanghui no longer tried to persuade her, so she devoted herself to dancing. She didn't want Qin-Ji's efforts to be in vain. In this case, let tonight become a beautiful memory. But no matter how beautiful the night is, it must come to an end. At midnight, the celebration banquet ends successfully. Although there are still many ship girls who did not dance with Qin-Ji at the banquet, Qin-Ji promised them that if they meet at the banquet next time, they will be the first to invite them, and everyone will have a share. This comforted the others and made them look forward to the next banquet. At 1 or 2 o'clock in the evening, the lights of the residence in the Royal Reception Hotel gradually went out, and the whole building became quiet. At this moment, the door next to the room where Qin-Ji lived quietly opened, and a figure walked out. When I came to the corridor and looked around, I found that the corridor was dark and there was no one around. Then I walked to Qin-Ji's door with confidence. She did not knock on the door, but directly turned on the door handle. With the sound of the door lock, a figure gently opened Qin-Ji's door a crack. Looking at her familiar technique, it was obvious that she had done this kind of thing more than once. When the door was pushed open, a dim light came out from the door. Soon, a figure quickly entered Qin-Ji's room and gently closed the door. The light in Qin-Ji's room was not turned off at this time, so the figure could easily spot Qin-Ji who was sitting on the bed through the light. Just when the figure looked at Qin-Ji, Qin-Ji also turned his head and looked at the person. He couldn't help but chuckle. I said, "Guanghui, in fact, you can open the door and come in openly. Don't be like that every time. You are the man and woman I am marrying, and we are not having an affair. Do you need to be so cautious?" When Guanghui heard Qin-Ji's teasing, he couldn't help but smile and said, "Commander should know that what I am best at is night raids, no matter what sense it is. But why haven't you slept yet? Logically speaking, after dancing for such a long time, you should be sleepy, right?" Qin-Ji couldn't help but laugh, and pointed to his legs that were exposed outside the quilt. "Well, it's not because I danced for such a long time, but my legs are a little sore now, so I want to pinch them, but I can't help but pinch them. I feel some pain in my waist when I sit down." Guanghui sat on the edge of the bed with some distress, touching Qin-Ji's leg with his hand. "Is it important? If not, I'll go find a doctor." Qin-Ji quickly shook his head and said to Guanghui, "It's just some muscle strain in my legs." There's no need to be so nervous. When I came back, I asked Belfast to get me some sustained release pills. Now I just have to rub it so it won't be unable to walk tomorrow. Guang Hui was relieved when he heard what Qin Ji said, so he quickly said to Qin Ji, "Commander, stop sitting there, take off your clothes, and lie down on the bed. Let me give you a massage." Qin Ji smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. I've been pressing the button for a long time before you came. There's no need to trouble you anymore. It's not troublesome. Commander is like this because of our sake. The efforts are all directly proportional to each other. Commander has paid so much. Why would it be troublesome if I give him a massage?" Guang Hui smiled. Road. Okay, Qin Ji was really tired, so he didn't refuse anymore, and according to the relationship between Guang Hui and him, there was nothing to refuse. So with Guang Hui's help, Qin Ji took off his clothes, lay on the pillow, and began to enjoy Guang Hui's massage. "Commander, after attending the royal celebration banquet tonight, what are you going to do tomorrow?" Guang Hui said to Qin Ji while massaging. "Tomorrow," Qin Ji paused and said, "I'm going to go to Akashi's place and get some oath rings." "Oh," Guang Hui chuckled, "so is the commander finally ready to open a harem?" Qin Ji blushed, but because he was not facing Guang Hui, he recovered quickly. "Well, how can you say that? I'm just responding to their feelings and giving them something to rest on. And you know that so far, you are the only one who has had sex with me." Qin Ji said awkwardly. The corner of Guang Hui's mouth raised. "Oh, although Commander sleeps with me most of the time now, Commander slept with Shinano for a long time before. Didn't something happen between you two?" Qin Ji turned around and saw Guang Hui's teasing smile, rolled his eyes and said, "The relationship between Shinano and I is innocent. Well, at most I just held her to sleep, and didn't do anything else." Guang Hui smiled softly, "I didn't say what the commander has done, so the commander doesn't have to be so nervous, and even if you have done something, I don't have any objections." "You?" Qin Ji shook his head, lay down again and said, "I'm sorry, Guang Hui. It is a blessing to have a close friend in life, and having a virtuous wife is even more extravagant, but now I am asking for more." When he said this, Qin Ji was greeted with a brilliant smile. "Commander, you asked this question a long time ago. I gave you my clear answer at that time, but after such a long time, it seems that come on, you still have it in your heart. Well, although you said it before, and now I accept your statement, I still feel that I owe you something in my heart," Qin Ji said softly. "Haha, it seems that the commander who is brave and capable in the eyes of outsiders occasionally has a childish personality." Guang Hui chuckled, but the movements of his hands did not stop at all. "If the commander really feels that he can't make it in his heart, if so, you can love me a little more emotionally in the future, and that'll be fine." This. Qin Ji couldn't help but laugh. "So is this your little idea?" "Haha, commander is indeed very smart." Guang Hui smiled, "While I am a ship girl, I am also a little woman." Qin Ji turned his head and looked at Guang Hui's coquettish look, and couldn't help but feel relieved. "I know, no matter how many weddings I have in the future, you are the one I like the most." I found that the commander is getting better and better at talking about love. As expected, this matter is all about practice, but I will remember the sentence," Guang Hui said with a chuckle. "Good.